Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Movie Night series review. I am Dalton Burdett with the amazing Nick Iricchio. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Good as always, and we are here to talk about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. This is the latest show from Marvel Animation as part of Marvel Studios. You know, Brad Winderbaum, Kevin Feige, Louis Esposito, the whole team. And this kind of went through a lot of interesting production stories regarding like when it was originally conceived, it was going to be a canon like year one of the Tom Holland Spider-Man. It was called Spider-Man Freshman Year, and then it eventually evolved into like, hey, kind of let's just kind of be our own thing, but we'll still be kind of like MCU What If adjacent. And I think for good. I really like how the show turned out. Spoiler alert for my review, but with that being said, speaking of spoilers, we're going to be doing a full spoiler review of the whole series. So if you have not watched Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, go back and watch it, and then come back to watch this review. I'll kind of go first really quick. I thought that the show started off in an interesting way, but it didn't really hook me until we got deeper into the Tombstone story, deeper into the Scorpion introduction. Like, about halfway through the show is when it really kind of got me, and I think it ended incredibly strong. Like, especially the last like 3 episodes, I thought were excellent. And I think if they can continue this trajectory into the second season, which has been renewed, consider me a fan. I'm going to continue watching this. You know, I think maybe part of the story issues that I had with it might be, you know, indicative of just them kind of having to restructure what the show was going to be. But overall, very enjoyable show for me, and I really had a good time watching it. How about you, my friend?
No, absolutely. I think to me the weakest element of it is like the Peter Parker storyline.
Yeah.
I found everyone's motives and their storylines, especially Lonnie and the Tombstone storyline, I
Mm-hmm.
thought was quite frankly it was awesome. Like I was fully invested. They hit all the right notes, and you know the interconnectivity of not interconnectivity, I guess, rather they pulled a lot of story threads and they introduced a lot of comic characters, and they did it in a very organic way that I think it's not something you could see shifted over to live action.
Right.
You know, in the way that they did it and the amounts that they were able to do it. You know, so I was very pleasantly surprised by the show, and I agree with you. I think he just episode over episode, it just kept getting increasingly better in my opinion.
No, yeah, 100%. And, you know, with Marvel Animation, I think X-Men 97 and this, they're two for two. And, you know, they got to keep going.
What If's
You
been
know,
solid. I didn't dislike What If. It was
I,
rather
I
lackluster compared to these last two.
yeah, I didn't hate What If. I just think it slowly I just became less interested, like, as it went along. You know, I can't wait for Marvel Zombies. I'm very excited about that. But
Yes, very excited.
speaking of What If, though, a nice little Watcher appearance at the end of the show. I thought that was nice. They, you
Yeah,
know,
very unexpected. Very unexpected.
spoiler alert for you. I know you haven't watched it. They do a very similar thing in a random episode of X-Men 97 where you see
Mm.
the Watcher in the sky, but it's just like one of those quick things, and it was just like like the Rick Dalton meme. But
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I don't know if they're building up to another like animated culmination, kind of like What If, even though technically that show's over, or if it's
Mhm.
just kind of to kind of just remind us that the Watcher's still out there. But you
I
know, I thought
wonder.
it was interesting.
No, I agree, and I wonder if it's a thing where, like, you know, we've already seen Spider-Man in episodes of what I think he only been in the zombie episode?
I think he's been in another episode, but I can't pull it off the top of my head.
Like, so I do wonder if, you know, this is that Spider-Man, let's say. You know, like maybe that's a fly. You know,
Maybe.
maybe that the What If Spider-Man is all connected because it is, you know, a What If branch off of Tom Holland, or
Hmm.
you know, I don't know. But I thought it was interesting, and I'm curious if Marvel Animation keeps pumping out at the quality that they are, right? I didn't watch 97, but you spoke very highly of it. I really enjoyed this. I wonder if this leads into the first like Marvel Animation feature film.
Yeah.
You know, like I wonder if that's where this is all heading and what that looks like.
No, that'd be very interesting. You know, speaking of Spider-Man, if they redid the '90s Spider-Man animated series, I'm taking off work to watch that thing. I would love that. There's some funny Easter eggs for that in X-Men '97 as well. But going back to this series,
Mhm.
you bringing up like Lonnie and that storyline, to me that was the beating heart of the show. like honestly, without that story, I would have liked the show significantly less. I do like Peter's relationship with Nico a lot,
Mhm.
and it's nice to see that character again. I think the last time we saw her was on the Runaways series.
What is
Eh,
she? I know they teased it at the end with this stone. I think she
mhm.
was talking to her mom. Is she just like sorceress, witchcraft? Like, is that sort of
Yes,
her
yes.
vibe?
I
Okay.
could see her popping up on like the Agatha side of the MCU or the Ghost Rider side. I know in some
Mhm.
iterations she messes with the Darkhold a bit, and
Oh, okay.
that's kind of her situation. They brought the Agents of Shield Darkhold to the Runaway show back when those were all happening.
Yeah, there's
But
what three dark holds or something.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's it's also uh her relationship with Peter I really enjoyed, and I liked the kind of dynamic that Harry Osborn brought to the group. And speaking of the Osborns, dude, Colman Domingo fucking killed Norman
Oh
Osborn.
yeah.
Dude, he was eating it up. I loved it. I loved
He
his portrayal.
crushed it. I would be fine with that transferring to live action. I'll be honest with you. I'm excited to see. I'm also excited to see what route they go with Goblin.
Mm.
Like,
Hmm.
are they going to go the like genetically modified human type thing? Are they going to go more with like he's wearing a suit of armor like Willem Dafoe? Are we going to get like animated Spider Verse where it's a big goblin thing? I mean, I think at the end they're teasing sort of a Venom symbiote version of that.
Hmm.
So that could also be interesting. Maybe they just don't even do Goblin. Maybe they do Venom on a glider. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Either way, it's gonna be very interesting with what the show can do. You have a lot more to go off of in animation.
Hmm.
I think that season two not having any like doubts about what the show is, I think is really going to help it. I don't know how long it's going to take to get season two. I don't know if they've been working on it or not. Sometimes it can take a long time to get seasons in the streaming era, so hopefully it doesn't take too long. But
I wonder if they'll have some hesitation on it. Sometimes when things become like a surprise hit, that
yeah,
does affect production in the back half of like Marvel was like, yeah, go do your thing with this, and then it becomes a surprise hit, and Marvel's like, hold on, what's going on in season two again? Let's maybe we'll take a closer look at that. So
yeah,
I hope that doesn't affect the quality.
I hope so too. Excuse me, I hope so too. I believe the showrunner's name is Jeff. It's his name. His name's Jeff. I forget what his last name is. I'll look it up in a second. But I thought the overall direction that the show was taking was very interesting. One of my favorite iterations of Scorpion I've ever seen. I thought
Oh,
that what they
fantastic!
did was really great. I liked seeing Otto kind of being the mad scientist behind it all. I thought
Mhm.
that they did a really interesting job. Obviously, they're building up other stories too. You have Amadeus Cho, who eventually becomes a version of the Hulk. You have Dr.
Honors,
Connors working
yeah.
in the lab. I thought that kind of planting the seeds everywhere. Spider-Man is a very luxurious rogues gallery and just tons of other characters you can bring in. And
Mhm.
I agree with what you said of how they do so much that like I don't think you could translate this story to live action, but that's why it's perfect for the show and the story that they're telling. And
Yeah, like it's a you can't introduce Dr. Connors and not have them be the lizard
right,
immediately. You
exactly.
can't have Doc Ock and not have him with the tentacles. I feel like it's without it being an origin, but even like a tease, like at the end. I feel like Spider-Man does work well in movie form when they do kind of streamline and it's like one villain, origin, and Spider-Man. I think Sam Raimi got that formula
Hmm.
pretty well down.
Yeah.
So,
By
but
the way,
I think that's just the benefit of animation because you could say the same thing with how many characters are stuffed into Spider Verse, even 1 and 2. I mean, Spider Verse, you have
yeah,
Kingpin as the villain and Doc Ock and all these other things. I think it's just something that benefits from that animation.
100%. By the way, Jeff Trammell is the showrunner's name.
Mhm.
I looked it up a
But
second
in
ago.
terms of Scorpion, loved it.
Yeah.
One that, like you had said, the tail being a Doc Ock tentacle that can retract
Hmm.
makes perfect sense. I think that was great uh, take on the character, and just the relentlessness because it is Scorpion is he is a menace. He doesn't care for other. He is a psychopath in that term, similar to like a Carnage or something. So I think having that paired with the gang war, I think him having a gang was an interesting touch and a good move. And I think having him beat Spider Man was like
Beat his
I think this
ass.
But like, yeah, he put Spider-Man in the hospital. Let's not,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I think to set the stakes of that, I think that they did that very well, especially with having that happen and also still being able to tie it in with Lonnie's storyline with the 1/10 gang. Like I think they just balanced all those story beats very well.
No, I agree with you. And I also liked how they would play with audience expectation, like doing the shot for shot recreation of Peter meeting Tony Stark in Civil War, but it's Norman Osborn instead. And
Yeah.
it immediately puts you in the mode of like, what if this was Peter's mentor, someone who's not the moral compass that Tony Stark could have been or an Uncle Ben could have been? And having that kind of be, um, how does that affect Peter? Which comes down to the awesome line that Norman hits him with, kind of playing with expectation, like I said, of with great power comes great respect. And like how that, just something as simple as that change can just fundamentally have repercussions on your character, which I think is going to be really interesting to see going forward.
And
And
even still, like they even tie it back, like you do see, is what makes Norman so compelling. Is, yeah, you see him doing all these bad things, but really at the heart of it, like even at the end when he's doing that speech and he's talking to Peter and he's like, "But you didn't go that far."
mhm.
And like that is what makes you the hero. Like he still does have that sort of mentorship on it, but I think obviously we're going to see and have seen it being used for ulterior motives. But I think that Norman is it's an interesting character because he does see that, oh, I'm not going to be able to get to this guy the same way that I thought I would be able to, just from of that, and watching him struggle and process that, I found interesting.
No, 100%. 100%. And hey, Richard Parker's alive. Pulling the old deleted Amazing Spider-Man 2 scene there, bringing him
And
back.
it's
Josh
the
Keaton,
Josh Keaton, the one of the original
spectacular
Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
roles.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was fun. I
Yeah.
am curious to see where they go with that. And I hope in a season two, I hope that we do get a lot more of maybe that May and Peter relationship and
Hmm.
sort of getting a better extent of like what Peter's storyline is going to be moving forward. Because like I said, that should be the heart of the Spider-Man movies or shows. And to me, I found a lot of the other storylines and characters a lot more compelling personally. But
Yeah.
it was a great interpretation of Peter. I just wish we got more of him.
No, I agree 100% with what you're saying. Absolutely. And, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I saw someone online say that they should get the voice of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon to be Uncle Ben in flashbacks. I'm like, oh, that'd be a nice touch. You can get Josh Keaton, him, and the new guy. That'd be interesting. But,
That'd be fun. And he does a good job too, because I know it's supposed to be like Holland-esque. I thought the voice
mhm,
work was very similar while still being on its own. And I thought the guy who played Doctor Strange, because I know it wasn't Benedict Cumberbatch, but man,
mhm.
like if you told me that was him, I would have believed you.
Yeah, no, he did a great job. The voice work all around was pretty spectacular. I really enjoyed it. But guys, what did you think of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? We'd love to see your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you, as always, so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next review.